Good evening, everybody. How are you? This is Enrique of Spanish United. Tonight we have a very special guest. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience?
Peace and blessings, brother. How y'all doing? My name. Hold on one second. Okay, I got it. Give me 1 minute. I'm trying to get this thing right on here. Give me 1 minute, because it looked like I said I got it. Okay, I got it. All right. Peace and blessings, everybody. How y'all doing? My name is Sabir Sey. Actually, I'm a radio personality and a hip hop head. I'm actually in the temple of hip hop. Also, I'm the fifth element of hip hop.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. As you know, Ivan Cavan, who's one of my administrators and director of the Spanish United chapter of Houston, was the one that recommended me to you to have you to come on the show. So there is going to be a very interesting conversation for tonight. And one of the topics that I wanted to discuss, which I think is very important, has to do with the issue of Hispanophobia. Hispanophobia is a phenomenon that is very rampant, that's been going on for a long time, but it's not really known, especially the term. So what Spanish United does is that we educate people on what Hispanophobia is, how it affects the Hispanic community, and how we are fighting to get legislation done so that way Hispanophobia is recognized as a real hate crime and that Hispanics can have minority protections. Because as you know, Hispanics are the only minority in America that don't have minority protections like African Americans do, Jewish people, the LGBT people, etc. So that's one thing I'm trying to bring out. And at the same time, to discuss on how to bridge the tensions and gaps between the African American Hispanic relations, especially here in Los Angeles, and also to discuss about better dialogue between both groups and also contributions of the Hispanic community within hip hop, especially in New York. So let's start up with the first topic of Hispanophobia. I want to know, being from Los Angeles, from California, what do you know about Hispanophobia? How does it affect the community, and what can be done to bring awareness to it from your standpoint?
Well, first of all, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. And this is the shocker. I only lived in California for probably like 12 years, long enough, decade. But on the East Coast, we never had those issues. We don't call necessarily our people Hispanic. That's why I was trying to figure out with you, what is Hispanic phobia? Because in New York or maybe Philadelphia, the Latinos, and we're all the same people. But what we do as a group is that, because I'm a Moor, and y'all may be muddles. In Spanish, they say muddle. So basically, see what I'm saying? So anybody knows me, I'm a historian, and I've been doing this over 20 something years. So I've been going for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been going back and forth to Spain. And that's been an eye opener, for real, for real. I already known a lot of history about, when you say Hispanic people, which you maybe say Mexicans or Puerto Ricans or Dominicans, because we have all those people in the Zulu Nation. I don't know if you know that or not. We have a lot of people from hip hop from Dominica, Trinidad, Puerto Rico, all of it. So again, on the East Coast, we don't deal with that. But when I moved to Cali, I saw that. It was like crazy to me. It was insane, the separatism that was out in California, But I have a couple close friends. Brother named El Salvador that looked out for me when I first moved out there. My brother El Mario, who actually looked out for me, and my brother Alberto. So again, I never witnessed that until I moved to Cali. But when I moved to Cali, what I did, I brought all my Mexican family in. If you ever go to my YouTube channel, Sabir Sey Radio, you'll see Mexican brothers on my show, literally. And we would literally have these types of conversations openly, and we need to have them openly because again, I didn't see that separatism when I was in Philly or New York. It wasn't until I went to Cali.
Right. Right. And I think part of it has to do with the differences between, for example, Mexico and Central America, because as you know, unlike Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, and even South Americans, Mexico and Central America, they have never recognized an African influence up until a couple of years ago. And there are Afro-Mexicans, there are Afro-Central Americans, but it's like the dominant culture in Mexico and Central America is primarily indigenous. So for some reason, they don't seem to recognize Afro-Latinos, and they tend to be excluded. And I think part of it has to do with the prison culture or the gang culture of California that you probably are aware of.
Yeah, yeah,
And
very aware of it.
and originally it was not like that, but when the Mexican mafia started to have more control over the Sureño gangs into the streets, they started to bring that racist element. Because prior to that, you had blacks that were in Mexican gangs, and that was not a big deal. But when the Mexican mafia made that rule, they started to do a lot of these things. And the same thing was with the African American gangs. You had Hispanics that were in African American gangs as well, so that all changed. But I also believe that as with any group, when you have one group that's becoming more dominant, it kind of tends to cause friction. Like in South LA, Compton was that was historically African American for a long time. But when you have black flight, which is similar to white flight, a lot of African Americans moved out of the area, started to go to other areas for, to leave the crime and whatever. So a lot of Hispanics, Mexicans, Central Americans started to move in. So that kind of changed the ethnic makeup. So as with any demographic change, it causes frictions. And again, most Hispanics and African Americans that are law-abiding citizens, they get along well. They don't have problems with each other, even though they may have their prejudices, but they're not going to go and attack someone because they're different. It has to do more with the gangs. But I would say in the last couple of years, when they started to make the RICO Act, injunctions against the Mexican mafia and a lot of gangs, they pretty much got rid of all of those hate crimes that used to be very bad back in the 2000s.
Well, they use the RICO on everybody. They use it on R. Kelly. They use it on hip hop heads. RICO is just organizations. That's all they're really doing. I don't know if you're familiar, because I don't use the word, number one, I don't use black. I don't use Afro-American. I don't use African-American. So when I'm referring to our people, I refer to our people as Moors, or like you heard me say earlier about the Spanish word saying muddles.
Yeah.
I don't use, and that's the separation right there amongst our people. Before we started using the word black, we was using the word Negro, or before that, we was calling ourselves Moors or muddles, right? And this is the conversation that needs to be had. And when I moved to California, I saw the need for that, and that's why I brought my brothers, Alberto, Sal, Almeria. I was bringing them in to say, look, these are the brothers that's going to relate or use it in their language to bring us together. And we were doing it. But there's a street, and you're in California, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so let me hit you with something real quick. Have you ever heard of this place called Cali de los Negros?
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, so you was just talk about what were they doing? Who was behind misleading the people? So you just said it earlier about how they divided the people up. So there was an alleyway, which is called, actually, for y'all that don't know, is Negro Alley. That's what it's called. It's Negro Alley, and it's downtown in the Mexican area, downtown, across street from the station. What y'all call it? Penn Station?
Yes, correct.
So that was a area which was called, it's still to this day, it's called Cali de los Negros. And if anyone who ever studied Pio Pico, most people don't know Pio Pico was an African. You see what I'm saying? It depends on what we are calling ourselves. And it's the same thing they have done with so-called black people. They took them away from who they are and said, okay, now you're black. So now black is automatically related to slavery. And then they say, okay, now what we're going to do is have the Mexicans disliking the black people, or the Mexicans taking all the jobs. How? You see what I'm saying? So it's bigger than you and I, but you and I are the ones that's going to have to fix this. Because I've honestly, when I moved to Cali, that's all I heard. I heard, oh, Mexicans don't like us, or Mexicans don't do this. I'm like, but we're the same people.
Right.
That's what I always bring. We are the same people. But again, it's the politicians, bro. It's the politician. Let's keep it real. It's the politician. You
Oh,
know,
I
that is,
agree with you. I agree with you.
but we need to have this dialogue. This is the dialogue that we need to have, and not just on here, but we need to have these things, you know, in California also. We need to have meetings on this. But the one thing I could say about even with hip hop, because I remember KRS-One, we did something on Pico Boulevard. And we did it was crazy because we always in there. KRS-One explains this same thing. He took out a book. He had a bunch of books. Never forget this. This was about 7 years ago, I swear. And we was on Pico Boulevard, and he comes in with literally like you think records. He had books in this crate. A lot of you not. So we at the event with all of the Mexicans, right? And I'm explaining that Mexican means mix. It's the same. We're the same people. It just means mix, right? So KRS-One gets up, and KRS-One puts his hand on the speaker. You know how dark KRS-One is.
Oh yeah.
And I remember him saying, he said, "Do you know anybody that looked like this speaker?" The speaker was black.
Right.
Everybody said no, nobody looked like that. So he was explaining the difference between black and brown, because they will call Mexican people brown.
Right.
You saw my photos. Do I look black or brown?
I would say brown, in my opinion.
Okay. Do you see where I'm going at with this? So what happens, they'll call Mexican people brown and our people black when we are the same people. So in my studies and my research, so I go to Mexico. I'm in Mexico in December. So now I'm in Mexico, and I'm down there talking to the Mexicans. And they're asking me, how did I know so much about history? And I was talking to cab drivers. I don't talk to people on resorts. I'm talking to the locals. Right. So as I'm talking to the cab driver, I'm talking to him about Montezuma, how Montezuma was an African. We going into this whole story, right? So we outside of 7-Eleven. And he said the thing he don't like about the States is that they only teach you about two groups of people. He said Aztecs and Mayans. Now that was new to me. That was new to me, that it's more people. So he started telling me about the darker people, as you would call Afro-Latinos, right? In Mexico. So this is a conversation I had with 3 cab drivers. And I'm telling them what I know about Cali de los Negros and Montezuma. And I'm going into the whole spiel of how Montezuma was stoned to death because he took the side of the European Spanish. Like, I'm going into this. He said, well, how did you know so much about this? And he got mad. He's never been to the United States before. He can't come. Right. So when I was telling him that, you do know that California is Mexico, right? He said, yeah. He said, but people in the States don't know that. So I said, California is Mexico. So the only invaders are the Europeans that you call white people. And that's why KRS-One has a song called Invaders that we need to start promoting and letting people know that we're one people, you know. And that's the only way we want to fix these problems, brother.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And also another topic that I wanted to also get on, and also the issue of Hispanophobia. You know, there's also a lot of talk about white supremacy when there's been, you know, hate crimes done, but there's not really much done about Black supremacy, which is not really mentioned. So what can be done? Black supremacy, you know, you have people, a small minority within the Moor community, which I'll politely say Moor, which believes that God is black, or God, or the black man is a God, or whatever. And, you know, they kind of have the same rhetoric as the white supremacists, except that they believe that African people or Moor people are superior. So what can be done to address the issue of Black supremacy within the Moor community, as I will respectfully call it?
Let me clear this up real quick. It's not Moors that's saying it. It's these people who claiming to be Black people who are saying it, because Moors don't talk that way. A conscious person who is aware of who they are do not talk the way they just talk. No Moor that is conscious, and I'm saying Moor being conscious, meaning those that's aware, don't talk white supremacy, because there's no white people and there's no Black people. That's not our conversation. And that's why you heard me open up and say, you are a motto, right? White supremacy is a theory, it's not even a fact. And I have that issue with a lot of our so-called Black people anyway. I say, well, white supremacy is theory, it's not a fact. And I can ask you the same question. Why are you on here? Do you or your audience, Do you feel inferior to anyone?
No, we don't.
Okay. You see how easy that can be squashed? But you have to understand also that it's money in it. It's money in speaking on white supremacy. So if you have a white supremacy, like you said, oh, where's the black supremacy? But you have no one talking about black supremacy. You see what I'm saying? But you said it towards the Mexicans. And again, the conversation needs to be had. And most people don't want to have this kind of conversation at all. I'm willing to have this conversation with anybody.
Yeah, part of it has to do with political correctness, you know, because of political correctness, people are afraid to say or speak on things that might be offensive to people. So one thing with Spanish United, that even though we are a civil rights organization, we also reach out to other people outside of the Hispanic community, or, you know, to dialogue and talk about things that maybe people have on their mind but not afraid to. Like, my organization is not political, so we're open to talking with everyone from all sides of the spectrum, from left to right, liberal, conservative, etc. Because I believe that in order to have unity and to have peace and to have better understanding, we need to listen to what the other people are saying. I think what's happening today in our climate is that people always like to throw mud at each other. So when you have people throwing mud at each other and making personal insults and whatever, it doesn't really accomplish anything. It just causes more division and friction. And I believe that you know, it's not productive. It's counterproductive.
And this is the thing, I'm getting people saying Hispanic, and this is the thing, most people don't understand Hispanic is a language, number one. That's a language. It's not a people. You can say Latin, or you can say Spanish, either one of those. But Hispanic is basically a Latin, but we're, you know, we are, and I'm going back to this again, mottos. But to your point, bro, we have the same thing amongst our own people. Let me say that. We have division amongst our own people also. Most people, and I hear people say, we want unity. And I'll be like, do you really want unity? Do you really know what unity is? You know, and one thing I can say from being in radio for over 20 years, that we love gossip and we love sensationalism, because this type of conversation don't get the airplay, nor do it get the finances that is needed. You know, I saw one thing that you saw that y'all was promoting, and it was on human rights. I've been screaming this since I've been on radio back in 2003. Where's all the human rights attorneys at in the United States? Y'all are talking about human rights. I hear none of these people, black, the conscious, none of them talking about human rights. And when I saw that post, I said, whoa, they're talking about human rights. So human rights is dealing with a nation of people that has a nationality. Because if anybody who ever read the Declaration of Independence, it tells you that every child is entitled to a name and nationality, right? But we don't have that conversation. When I went over to Spain, the first time I went to Spain, I had in my hotel room a human rights book. I lie to you not. Do you know how people have the Bible in the bedroom, Bible in the desk?
Yes,
Bible.
Gideon's Bible.
I'm literally in the hotel in Spain, every hotel I was going to, I open up the drawer, I see a human rights book. I said, well, wait a minute. What the, you know, I'm like, what's going on? Like a human rights book, but over in the States, you get what? A Bible. So when I saw y'all talking about human rights, it triggered me, because when we opened up, I spoke to you and I said, well, where's the human rights attorneys at in the States, right? In Malta, on the island of Malta, they're talking about human rights lawyers. Y'all can look it up. Look up human rights lawyers over in Malta. So I'm looking at these things and I'm like, why are we not having these type of conversations? I don't know if y'all can see that, but that's what it is. These are human rights. The human rights.
Yes, correct. And that's what Spanish United is about. We're about human rights for, you know, the Hispanic people and for everyone. You know, I believe that that human rights is very vital. And I believe that as long as people are willing to work together and to make reforms, you know, that's how we're gonna make human rights possible. Like, one of the things that I emphasize in Spanish United is culture over color, meaning that, you know, Hispanic can be of any group, but we're all united as one people because we speak the same language, we have the same customs. You know, we may all look different,
That's
but we're all the
culture.
same people. I beg your pardon?
What? No, but that's why I want to say this to you, because, and I say this, and a lot of so-called Black people get upset. I say Black people are culture vultures. And this is not to put them down. Why am I saying that? What is the culture of Black people? I say this all the time. But in hip hop is a culture. And that's the one thing I keep stressing to people. Hip hop is a culture. Why do I say that? It doesn't matter what color you are, because number one, is only one, right?
Yes, correct.
But culture, hip hop has its culture. We speak a certain way, we dress a certain way. That's what hip hop is, right? The culture. So now I'm from Philadelphia. I'm from Philly. I moved to California. We have a term called join in Philly. Most people don't know what join is. Join could be anything. So when I moved to Cali, I tell this story that I was in Hawthorne, and I walked past a brother, and I nodded my head. He jumped off the wall and said, "What up, cuz? What up, cuz?" That's the West Coast thing. What up, cuz? So he didn't understand me until I explained the culture to him. He said, "Well, where you from, cuz?" New York or Philly? Automatically. That's the culture. So Philly has its culture. New York has its culture. Jersey has its culture, right? But we're the same people. So when you come into hip hop, everybody comes under that umbrella as a culture. You take a cult and you cultivate it, and it becomes a culture. I'm gonna repeat it for y'all again. You take a cult, a group of people believing in one thing, and cultivate it, and then it becomes a culture. So when you travel, you adopt the culture of the person. Like when I was in Spain, I was adopting the culture of Spain. So when I'm in Spain, I'm not gonna say more or Black, I'm gonna say moro, or they say negro, right? To make the connection. So I don't go there for like a week. I'm going there for months to actually learn the culture, because everyone's culture may be different.
Right.
So it's the same thing when I was, you follow me? So that's the culture, but we're the same people. But people say, they're what they say, brown people. I'm like, I'm brown too. You do know that, right? So we don't have to say Afro, Mexican. No, we're the same people. But it's what we are calling ourselves. They're moros or moriscos. Pick one.
Right.
That's how you unite the people. And this, and that's what Noble Drill was trying to bring, that we under that one umbrella as one. But again, they spend millions, but I'm gonna keep it real. I just said to somebody the other day that Gates spent 319 million on advertisement. Bill Gates did. 319 million on advertisement. And this is what they do. That's why nobody's getting this. I'm watching the same thing, but it was someone else that was talking about media and how they will put so much money behind media to keep people fighting.
Right.
Oh, they don't see them as Mexicans, don't see it as themselves. They call themselves. No, if one studied to Guadalupe, maybe I'm saying it wrong. Guadalupe is in the California. It's in the California.
That's correct. Hello? 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 Hello?
His name was Herbert something. They classified him as white, but it has nothing to do with the complexion. It was the status of the individual.
Right.
That's what it was. And these are that we need to have with people.
Yeah, and Latin America is different from the United States. In Latin America, you were not really excluded by what your ethnicity or color was. You were excluded primarily on your status, because in Latin America, the Spaniards instituted the caste system, while in the United States, it didn't matter what your status were. You were excluded by what your ethnicity and what your race was, and it was that way up until 1965. Yes.
And you said something very important. Most people don't know that in the United States, we are under this thing called a color code caste system. I'm gonna repeat this again for y'all. If you don't know what it is, you should look it up. It's called a color code caste system, how they identify people by complexion. That's craziness.
Mhm.
They did that. We didn't do that. They did it. And our parents were never taught this either. But we are the ones that's going to have to fix this. Boy, you don't even know how much flack I got when I moved to California, bro. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I caught so much flack from my own people. Seriously, even though you're my people too, but my own people. And I never forget when I was going to do radio. I did radio from 2003 to 2009 when I moved to Cali in 2010, right? And I'm gonna tell you this story too. What happened, this Mexican brother named Sal used to work in a strip club. And I always tell a story of people. Salvador Day, that's his name. Mm-hmm. So I remember I was he met me on Hollywood Boulevard, and I gave up doing radio because I got fed up because it wasn't nobody else's fault. It was our people, my own people. And I got fed up and I was done. And I remember Sal meeting me on Hollywood Boulevard. I lied to you not. This man reached in his pocket in a brown paper bag, not his pocket, but a brown paper bag, and gave me 500 ones. I lie you not, to start this radio show, because I gave up on people on radio. And then he turned around and gave me another 500 and said, I don't know you, but I can feel your spirit. He said, do something with this. And that's what I've done. So when you go to my YouTubes, right, you'll see these two brothers there, and people got upset with me straight up, because they said, well, how are you going to have Mexicans in the room? They don't like us. I've never ran across a Mexican that didn't like me. If you can find them, I'll wait, because I never ran across them. Now, if you had an experience because you don't understand the culture, that's on you. I understand the culture. And that's just like going into other countries. You have to know the culture of the particular country that you're going into, or you have to know the people. And that's the one thing that I love about, think of my brother Alberto now, he's on here now. And the one thing that I've learned, and they taught me some stuff, the one thing I learned about true hip hop is that hip hop will bring everyone together. And they saw this and they said, we cannot have this. If you go into Mexico and talk to any, you will hear them spitting a Rakim rhyme. I ain't never heard so many Osley brothers, OJ. I don't even hear our people playing it out here. But when I moved to Cali, I'm like feeling, I'm like, yo, they rocking this, dude. That's some stuff. OJ's, somebody will tell you that's old school. I'll be like, what? I'm being real. You know this too, right? So we don't even listen to the OJs that we may do, but you don't have the average person who listens to that. But most of the stuff in hip hop are sampled by these people.
Right.
They'll listen to it from a hip hop version to a James Brown, to a Sly, to the Osley Brothers, to the Temptations. The samples they hear. You see what I'm saying? The samples is what they would hear. But if you let them say, well, listen to the Temptation, they say, that's old school. That's my grandmother's time. No, that's true. And that's why I tell people hip hop is called true school. It's not old school, it's true school. But we in media have to fix this. And what you're doing in your listening audience also, we have to do this, not just on this podcast. We need to do this daily or weekly.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I do with Spanish United is to get people to be involved, to get people to be proactive. And it's very important for people to not only get out and vote, but also to be involved. Because a problem that the Hispanic community has is that they tend to complain a lot. But the problem is that they don't really take the initiative to try to do something about it. So I think it's very important that people need to go out and get involved in their local community, get involved with their local leaders, because everyone has to work together. Like one of the things that I'm doing with Spanish United is meeting with different leaders, civil leaders, politicians, to try to petition the issues that we have, and at the same time, thank you, and also to create community centers, because I feel that one of the reasons why the Hispanic community is suffering is because I don't see investment being brought.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that the reason why I see the Hispanic community suffering is because I don't see investment or resources pouring in. Hello?
Sorry, I missed everything you just said. Repeat that one more time.
Yeah, sure. I was saying that one of the things that the Hispanic community is suffering is because there's no investment or resources being poured into the community. And I think that that's counterproductive, and that feels in a vacuum for a lot of the youth to get into trouble. Let me give you an example. If you go to San Gabriel, I'm not sure you've been to San Gabriel, that area is predominantly Chinese or Asian. But if you look in that area, all those cities like
Mm.
Arcadia, Temple City, Monterey Park, they're all nice and clean. It's nice, and part of the reason why is because the community is involved. You have civil leaders that are working with the people. At the same time, when you have one person from that community becomes wealthy, instead of moving out and being selfish, they reinvest into that community. They give scholarships. They help people open up businesses. Like the Chinese have something that many people know called the Bamboo Network. And what the Bamboo Network does is that overseas Chinese that are outside of China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, they establish cultural and business connections with Chinese all over the world, and that's how they help each other. I'm trying to get Hispanics to do that because we don't have that, and that's the reason why we are suffering because
But you
Hispanics are
breaking up.
spending
But
the.
let me say this to you.
Sure, go ahead.
Most people don't even know what you just said. They think that all Mexicans, all Spanish people, right? They get everything handed to them. So I'm glad you bring this because a lot of, and I hope y'all share this out, man, because a lot of people believe, oh, Mexicans is taking over this and the Mexicans are taking over that. How? He just told you that they don't even get this. They don't get certain things. It's the Asian people. And then again, once we understand how this works, then you can also tell the Asian people where they come from because their lineage still come from us also.
Right, right. But
They,
that's one thing that I always emphasize is that Hispanics don't have access to a lot of things that, for example, like
you
the Asian
breaking up,
people do. How about now? Can you hear me now?
sure. And we gotta fix this Hispanic thing. I know this is your show, but you say Hispanic, but I got you. I know where you're going at with it, but go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was saying that the Asian community, they have access to a lot of resources, but that's because they have a working system that they help each other out. Hispanics don't have that. So as you say, a lot of Hispanics are criticized because they supposedly they get handed things to them, but in reality, they're being treated as slaves, and a lot of people don't realize that. I don't see Hispanics or Mexican people or Central American people being rich. A lot of them have been working 5 or 10 jobs, and they're still living in poverty, and that's not right. I see Asians that come here within a generation or within the same generation, they become wealthy, but a lot of it has to do is because they emphasize on education. Education is very important. And one thing that I'm doing with my organization is to
Say it
emphasize
again. Hold on. Say
education.
that. Say it
Ed-
again.
Education.
Say it again. Is
Education.
what?
Education is vital to one's future.
Mm. And let me share something with you because when I was moving from Hawthorne, right?
Hmm.
I remember, and like you said, how they operate. I was moving from Hawthorne one time, and we had, I believe it was 3 bedrooms, right? And it was a Mexican that was moving us out. This Mexican brother told me that he said, how much is the rent? We gave him the price for the rent, right? And then he started telling us about how many of them live in 1 bedroom. He said 9. I said, whoa, how many of us would do that? He said, there's 9 of us living in a 1 bedroom. I said, hold on, I had to scratch my head for a second. I said, how is that possible? We don't even do that. You see what I'm saying? Again, they take their money and they send it. This is what he told me. They take their money and send it back over to Mexico to have their people come over here. That's what he told me.
Hmm.
That's what he was saying. So when I hear people say negative things, and I know people probably say it now, well, Sabir taking sides with the Mexican. Anybody know me know I've been this way. I don't take sides with nobody. Reality is reality. The truth is the truth. That what Mexicans do is an African tradition. I'm gonna help y'all out. I forgot the word that they use in Africa, but we did that in Africa. They would set you up to make sure you're right and you're exact. What do you need? You need a car, you need this, you need that. They would do that. to make sure you're right. And then when you get on, you help other people. And I experienced that same thing when I was in Spain with some brothers. When I was in Spain, there was a lot of brothers from Senegal and Ghana and these different places. And I did a video showing, right? Exactly, it's called The Power of Economics. Thank you, sister. And I was looking at these brothers from Senegal when I was in Spain. And all of them left all at the exact same time. They all was actually, and I filmed it and I talked to a couple of them. They all lived in one room, bro. One room. And what they were telling me is that they take their money and send it back in case somebody needs something. And I'm the crazy one. I'm over there giving them money. I'm like, shoot, you know, because I understand we're one. And it's the same thing with Mexicans. We're one people, but the people who are dividing us up is, like you said, is some so-called Black people that you call Moors, the separatism, because they don't understand the culture. They don't understand that, bro. And that's why we are where we at today.
Yes, I agree with you, and that's one thing that I'm trying to do to change that.
Stop cursing at me. Trying is a curse word. Stop cursing at me. What we do, I'm gonna tell you this. Stop with the try. We don't try. We do. Trying is a curse word. When you try, you do it. Like Nike, do it.
Right.
That's it. Get it out your vocabulary about trying. We don't try. We do. And I tell people this all the time. Everybody suffers. Everybody suffers. I tell people the story of a baby coming from the womb of a woman. A baby suffers coming through that little womb of the woman. But by the time the baby gets here and get older, it forgets about that struggle. So everybody goes through that. Again, it's the unity is the key. How do we spend this money? How do we do it? And if, again, the only reason why we here, I'm gonna keep it real, on this planet, bruh, is to be of service and to uplift fallen humanity. And that's even what Noble Drew Ali was talking about, is to uplift fallen humanity. That's it. That's all it is.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and that's what Spanish United emphasizes: is to help humanity, help people, and to help society be a better place.
Yeah, that's all we can do, is to be of service to other people. That's it. I see all the crazy stuff you see, bro. Trust me. I see all the nonsense that's coming on social media. When you talk about the Hispanics and the so-called Black supremacy, I see all that madness and it's craziness. But honestly, I remember the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, "You don't have to condemn a dirty glass of water. Just sit the clean one up beside the dirty glass and let the people choose it." And if you're not paying attention to what's happening, all of this phony stuff from social media, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook is falling apart. It's falling, so let it fall. We ain't got to do nothing but sit back and watch it. And I said this to people, and it was funny. There was a movie, and I say this to people a lot. I don't know, it was The Day After Tomorrow. I think that was the movie, Day After Tomorrow, when everybody was trying to run into Mexico. Remember when all that stuff went on? And what did they say? Ho, 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 we're not letting you in here. Let you with these.
I remember very well.
Okay, you're going to Mexico. So what if they shut the doors on you and said that you can't come in? Black man, Black woman. What if they said that? I bet you're going to be saying I'm Mexican then. I'm just being real with you, man. This is crazy, man. But we got to have this conversation, beloved.
Right. I think it's very important. I think it's very important. And I also believe that as people are able to finally open up and be more open, I think people can have more candid conversations about issues and concerns that are affecting the people. Another thing that I also wanted to ask is, how do you believe that there can be peace and unity between people that are of Hispanic background and people that are of African background? Like what can be the key to having harmony between both groups from your standpoint?
Conversations, these types of conversations, which we've been having these type of conversations. That's it. We have to have conversations. somebody's saying Spain wasn't called Spain until it was called El Andalus. I stayed in Spain for 4 or 5 years. Yes, Spain was called El Andalus. We're not talking about that. I stay in Spain. I've been all up and down in Spain and wasn't there for a week. I stayed in every part there is, from Valencia on down to Granada. And actually, my brother Alberto said, knowledge of self.
Knowledge of
That's what my brother
self.
Alberto said.
Knowledge of self. That's nice. And I also believe that when people respect people's culture and people's thoughts, you know, it can also help to create a more understanding towards one another. I think that's very important. When people don't know each other or understand each other, you know, that also creates animosity. So I feel that if both groups engage with each other, it can definitely create more harmony.
Have you ever heard I believe it's My Philosophy with KRS-One, or You Must Learn, one of them. He said black and white, and I'm using the term black and white. KRS-One said black and white both take shorts because one doesn't know about the other one's culture. I think it's My Philosophy on the Industry by the Dissing Me. He said black and white both take shorts because one doesn't know about the other one's culture. So the culture, like you said, we have to know the culture. So when I don't know if you saw the interview with KRS-One and I about a week ago, and KRS-One said, when I'm in Spain, I'm Spanish. I don't know if you saw that. Wherever I'm at, I'm that. That's how you kill it. Like when people ask me, Sabir, what's your religion? I ask you, what's your religion? So if you tell me you're a Christian, then I'm a Christian today with you. You see how you do it?
Right.
Sabir, I'm a Jew. Okay, well, I'm a Jew like you today, even though I am the original Jew, right? But I'm not going to argue with you on your religious beliefs or your culture. So you have to immerse yourself in people's culture and know the culture. And I had a wake-up call when I was in, and I was telling some guys when I was in Fort Lauderdale, and they laughed at me. Because I was like, yeah, I didn't know about the culture of London, right? I said, I'm on a train and I'm coming down the escalator on the left-hand side. And the lady looked at me and I'm thinking she's profiling me, like she racial profiling. And she said, you must be a tourist. I said, why? She said, because you're on the left-hand side of me. You're supposed to be on the right-hand side so people can go down the steps. I said, oh, snap. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Not saying racism does not exist, but the key is that understand that's a cultural thing. If you come to Philly and you say certain things and we don't understand it, then it's a problem because you don't understand the culture. So even with me, Philly has this like attitude. So it's a cultural thing, you know what I mean? So it's not, you have to get to know the culture of the people. And what we do, we judge them. You follow me? We judge on what some people are saying.
Right. It's like what the Apostle Paul said, when I'm in Rome, I'm Roman. When I'm in Greece, I'm Greek.
Listen, let me tell you something. I said this earlier on the day about Rome. I'm not in Rome. So somebody take me to Rome, because this is not Rome. So again, why are we allowing someone else to do this? Like, this is not Rome. It's not. It does not belong to them. It belongs to us. The land belongs to us. Again, the only immigrants in the United States is the people that you call white people. That's who are the immigrants. And if somebody on here that's European, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. You're taking land from people who it belongs to and calling someone else an immigrant. You see what I'm saying? Like, how could you call somebody, because again, California, Mexico, all that's, the
American Southwest.
Yes, it is, exactly. So the borders, and the reality is the borders should be illegal, not the people. Did that make sense?
Right.
The borders should be illegal, not the people. But if you don't understand how the game is being played, Anthony, you don't know what this is, okay? This is his podcast. I'm a guest, okay? I'm a guest.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, I let everyone give their point across. I don't argue with people, so that's why I let everyone speak equally. Well, I wanted to say that you know, we've run out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much for being on the show. Truly appreciate it. You have any final thoughts?
No, man, unity is what we need, man. And honestly, we need to get together and do something in California, man. We need to do something in Cali with our people, man, because that's the only way we're going to fix these problems, brother.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And hopefully in the future, we can definitely work together.
Mm.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
no
you
doubt.
so much. Thank you so much for being on the show.
And I'm going to say this, stop saying try. We don't try, we do.
Exactly, 100%.
All right. Have a good evening on purpose, brother.
You too. Take care of yourself.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.